Hello guys and welcome back. In this section we're going to be talking about float and aligning elements in CSS, and I'll try my best to explain this so that you understand very well. Although float is not really used these days because of we have things like flexbox and grid, but I still want you to get to understand it and how it works. So what we're going to do now is I just created a file and you can see it's empty. So we'll start by putting in our boilerplate. As usual, you should be able to do this by now. So I'll give it a name of align and float. Okay, and then the next thing I'll put in my style tag. All right, now in the body I'm going to create 3 boxes, and I want to give the boxes I want to give all of them a particular class but different IDs. So I'll give this one, all of them should have a class of box, but then I want to give them an ID of let's say this is box 1. Okay, so inside of this now, and you should know, when you can, from the previous video I talked about classes and IDs, a class can be applied to different divs, but an ID can only be applied to one. So I cannot give another div an ID of box 1 because it is already being used here. So now I'll give this a heading of, let's say let's call it anything. Let's say welcome. It's not really important here, so let's give it a text of, let's say 20. Okay, now I'm going to copy this and duplicate it 2 more times, and I have to change the ID. Let's call this 2 and let's call this 3. Okay, so if I open my live server, let's see what we have. Okay, so this is what we have here. When we talk about align, the first thing we're going to do now is to try to see how we can put this in the middle. If I open my developer tool, and you know how you open it, I have explained that before, you can see that all of these are just on their own. So if I want to place this in the middle, if you go to websites, so if you go to some websites, you wouldn't see the elements on one side of the page, they are always in the middle. So how do we do that? Now it is done by wrapping everything inside a container, and in most cases if you go through people's project, you will see that they will always call it a container where they put in their stuff. So now I'll create a div of container. That is what I will style. So a div called container with a class of container, and inside this div I'm going to copy out all of these. I'll cut them out and I'll paste inside here. So let me do justice to this so it will be aligned properly. Okay, now I will save this and nothing happens, but let's click on this container now with our developer tool. You see that it stretches, the element stretches throughout the page. So I'll target the container class now here. So inside my style, I will target the container class and I'll give it let's say a width of 960 pixels. So I'll give it a width of 960 pixels, and let's save it and see what happens now. So if I click on the container now, you see that we have 90 pieces, which is the blue one, and then we have the other part, the yellow part, which is the margin. So what we have to do now is to split the margin equally on both sides so that this will be in the middle, and we do that by using the margin and giving it a margin of auto. So if we save this now and go back here, now you can see it's in the middle. I believe you understand what we're doing. Now let's try to use our CSS reset. I explained this in the previous video. So inside there we put our star and we say margin 0, padding 0. So now we can see we have the container, and you can see this is evenly distributed. Now I'll show you something. Let's close this for a while. If I try to minimize this here, you will see that the text begins to go out of the screen, and finally it stops. This is how much this screen can take, and then you see the text begins to go out, and whenever you want to scroll you have to go like this, and this is not really good. So what we do is this: to fix this problem, we use what, instead of giving, as long as you're working on the container, instead of using a width of 960, you should give a max width of 960. So now let's save it and go back, and now I'll try to reduce again. Once it reaches 960, you can see what begins to happen. Okay, I believe you understand this. So with this you can really go through the page. Now next thing we're going to do, let's try to style this thing so that it will kind of look good. So I'll target the whole body of the L of this, and let's give it a, should I say, a font family. We've talked about fonts. Which one should we give? Let's give Arial vertical sans serif. Okay, and then let's give a line height so that there should be a little space in between. I should close this. A line height of 1.4, should we say, or let's use M, and we save and we look at it. Okay, now we have something going on here. Let's also inside the container, okay, we won't do this in the container because I want to put a little padding. Now we come to the box. You remember the box, each of these has a class. So inside the box, let's do some other styling here. So this is what you're going to be doing whenever you are styling. So this is a class of box, and then in this box we want to give a background of, let's say, pound F4 F4 F4, and we also want to give a border of 1 pixel solid and pound 333. And then what else do we want to do? Let's give them a padding of 20 so that it will go away from the border. So if we save and look at what we have here now, okay, I think we should give it a margin too so that it will leave the edges. So we'll also give a margin of, say, 20 pixel, and let's see what we have. I should put pixel here. So we have something like this, and it is quite good. And if we try to reduce it, okay, it works fine. And when we have our full screen, you can see what's going on here. All right, now what we're going to see now is how we can align our tests. I believe some of you've used Microsoft Word. I'll try to shrink this a bit. Okay, I'll start with this so you get to see properly what I'm trying to explain now. Now you can see this is by default your texts are aligned to the left. You can align to the right, you can justify, or you can center. So let me do that now. So I'll target all the elements in the box, and for the box I want to target mainly the paragraph. So we give a text align of, let's say, left, which is the default one, and nothing would happen. It's still the same. Okay, so we can remember when you put another one under it, overwrites the one on top. So we can just easily put text align. Let's align to the right and save. So you can see our text has been aligned to the right. And then the next one is we can try to center. Text align, center, and if we save this and look at it, you can see our text is on the center. And then the fourth one is justify. Text align, justify. Okay, so you may not necessarily see it now because we don't have enough text here, but you can, what it means that our text will be split evenly on both sides. Let's come here and let's add some more text here. Let's say we want to give lorem 40 so we can see it very well. Okay, so you can see the text is justified. You have equal amount of text, like it is evenly distributed here. So that is what justify does. Okay, So the next thing we're going to talk about is floats. And when we talk about floats, I'll just try to show you up with a picture. So I'll open my browser and let's search. I'll type CSS layouts here, and I want to go to the images, and let's bring up this image. Sometimes you see some things, in fact most websites are like this, and this can be arranged using floats and other methods which are better than floats, which I'll show you as we continue. The reason why I'm trying to show you about float is because of the fact that it was used earlier. Although people presently, if you're making websites, you try to avoid floats as possible because you have a lot to do to make it work out as you want, which you're going to see. But I just want you to understand that there are better ways of doing it, like flexbox and grid system. Okay, so let's come back. I just tried to explain this to you, and remember from this our project we already gave each box an ID, so we're going to target them. We want this box to be here, and we want these two to be side by side. That's the second and the third one. So let's do that. I'll select the first one. Remember, they have different IDs, so I want to select the second box. It has an ID of box 2. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, I'll float it to the left. I want it to be on the left, so I'll float it to the left and I'll save it. Let's see what we have here. So you would not necessarily see anything happen here because remember we gave this a width and it still has the same width. It's trying to float to the left, but it's not working, so it's just coming together. So to take care of this, you need to add something else, which is called the width. Give it a specific width, and instead of using pixels, it is advisable if you're trying to align to use percentages so that you're going to get something responsive. So I'll save this and let's look at what we have here now. So this is it. It has a width of 70. Let's try to float this other one to the right and give it a width of 30 so that it will cover the remaining space. So I'll just copy this and paste here, and I'll change this to 3, and I'll change this to 30, and I'll change this other one to right. I'll save this now. Let's see. Okay, now what is happening here is this: we are trying to place this on both sides, but you remember something I told you about in the previous video, that it tries to take some extra space. So in order to fix that, you're going to use that thing we talked about, which is box sizing. So let's come back to our reset and we add our box sizing and give it border box. So if we save this now, we still have an issue. Okay, now I'll try to tell you what's happening here. Remember, in this place we gave a margin of, that is in the box, we gave them margin of 20 on both sides, on all sides, and it's also taking the space. So let's remove this and see what happens. Now you can see now that it has been aligned on both sides. Okay, but if you look at this, it is now leaning on the top. So what I'm going to do here is I'll uncomment this. I'll give top bottom of 20 pixel, and I'll give sides left and right 0 pixel, and this is what we have. So we're having this much space, and I don't like this space. Let's reduce this to, let's say, 10. Okay, so this is fine. And now you should understand that this place is actually 10, but this place is 20. That is because it's taking 10 from this one and 10 from this one. What you're supposed to do here, if you're working, is just to give a border bottom and try to take care of this one. This is how you're supposed to do that, but I won't be doing that now. What I want to take care of is this part here. You can see they are now aligned together, but there is no space between them. So how you take care of this space is the simplest way is just coming back to one of these and reducing them. So let's give this one, let's say 68, and we save it and see. Okay, so this is what we have here. Now if I try to shrink this, you'll see now we get a problem. You can see, and this is not really good when you're working. And we are going to talk about responsive design soon, such that when we hit a certain breakpoint, this one comes out from here and aligns under. So we're still going to look at that as we proceed in the video, but let's continue on this one. If I add another div here, I'll just copy this. I want to show you something. I'll copy this and paste here and give it an ID of 4 and try to save it now. So you see what happens, that it goes and takes over this other place. So that is why I told you that this is not really ideal if you're working. So to take care of this, we're going to use what is known as clear. That we'll try to clear on both sides. So this is how we do it. I can just come here and let's just create a class called clear. That's why I tell you this one is really a pain in the neck, and I'll just say clear, and I want to clear it on both sides, because if you clear on left, then the left will clear. There are 3 you can do on 3 places. Let me just show you. Left. So if I save this and look at it, nothing really happens because only one side is cleared. If I do right and I save, nothing will still happen. But then if I clear on both sides and I save this now, oh sorry, I'm supposed to apply this. Sometimes I won't edit this so that you get to see some of these errors that are made. Now I'll still show you, but now I have to apply this div here that I created. So I will just apply it here. It's called clear, and I guess that is what I use. So if I save now and you go back to that, you'll see now it is now below. I believe you get what I'm trying to do here. So let me show you that I was doing earlier, or you can do it on your own. Just change this to left and right and see what happens to your document here. So why this is not really ideal, you can see what this one is short, this one is quite different, and if you try to do something like this, you see what's happening here. So this is not really looking nice, although there are ways we can make this look good, but I don't think we're going to be using this. I just want you to know, I just want to show you that something like this exists. Alright, this is where I'll stop this video.